What's up, everybody? This is Nate from the Order of Aurelius, and I just wanted to tell you how excited I am for y'all to have access to this podcast interview. I am so thrilled to have been able to speak to professional drag racer Zac Fulcher. This man is incredible. He's an incredibly talented racer. He is a skilled businessman. He's an incredible father and a very faithful, just incredible man. I had a great time talking to him. We covered so many different things. We talked about resilience. We talked about the warlike mentality that he gets into every time that his engine starts. We talked about his business ethics and the things that he's done with his sponsors. We talked about so much. And so I am so excited for this to finally be yours, just as it was so exciting for me to be able to do this in the first place. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Zac Fulcher. All right, Zac Fulcher, welcome to the show. Can you go and explain to the audience kind of who you are, what you do?
So my name is Zac Fulcher, 28 years old. I'm a multi-facet business owner. Have a little bit of different things in real estate, pest control, motorsports, marketing, just a little bit of everything to make the pile of what we have.
Now, when you say motorsports, what specific motorsports do you do professionally?
So the motorsports that we're involved in the most is drag racing. So what we do is called big money bracket racing. We travel around to different events that pay anywhere from $20,000 all the way up to $1 million, depending on the event.
Gotcha.
And we typically do around anywhere from 15 to 20 events a year.
That's incredible. Awesome. So like early on in life, did you know that this was the path you were going to take, or was it something you found out later?
Not at all. When I was a kid, things were really tough and different. There was always a dream, always something that I wanted to do. My granddad got me into racing at 7 years old.
Gotcha.
I did motocross before that. I was always a bigger kid, and having the wheels off the ground never was my thing. So my granddad got me into drag racing at 7, and then after just watching him and his success, it just always was what I wanted to do. I could do it every day. That's just where I've developed my love and passion.
I see. Now, what was kind of like your early life like from young childhood up through maybe teen years?
So we grew up lower middle class. My granddad and my uncle and my dad started Southern Termite and Pest Control when I was 4. So I got to see that my granddad branched off from his family business and started his own thing, and just to be able to watch that struggle and grow up around that struggle always gave me a different perspective once I got older, and to the position where we are now. Things aren't anything like that as they were before, but
right.
That watching that coming up as a kid kind of helps mold you into a different perspective for all facets of life, no matter if it's driving a race car or talking to a stranger, walking down the road. So.
Sure. Now, having, a childhood that, as we've spoken about, we kind of share in common some details, did you find that some of the things that you went through as a kid crippled you in certain ways or enabled you in certain ways, or maybe a little bit of both?
It definitely, that's a good question. It definitely, like I was saying earlier, gave me a different outlook at certain stages of life. It gave me anger, gave me sadness and things like that. But in the long run, it's given me passion and desire and fire
that makes sense,
to not stop and to never look back.
I like that you bring up anger, because that's something that as we talk about a lot with Order of Aurelius, with Stoicism, and how the Stoic philosophers taught to not suppress emotions but to channel our reactions to them positively. You bring up anger, which is arguably the strongest of emotions. Did you find that your experiences with anger were like a battle, or did you find it easy to use it? Because you mentioned passion too, which I don't know if you feel, but like for me, probably the easiest emotion to convert anger into is passion or drive or something like that. Did you kind of have a similar experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. My favorite thing is when somebody tells me I can't do something. That is, if you tell me that, then you're pretty much guaranteeing that I'm going to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
I think I get that from my granddad and my uncle. If you tell us that it can't be done, we're going to figure out a way to do it.
Right.
Even if it doesn't seem like maybe it was the smartest way to do it, or the most efficient way.
Right. But it's going to get accomplished nonetheless.
Yes. Yeah. My granddad always taught me that, whatever you put your mind to, you can figure it out. And the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it.
Exactly. Yeah. So along the way, have there been any particular philosophies, and that doesn't necessarily need to mean, a philosopher or school of thought. If it is, I'd love to hear that too. But are there any sort of life philosophies that have guided your life as a whole?
It's just always try to put people in your shoes, or put yourself in their shoes, and, treat everybody the way you want to be treated. That's been pounded in me since I was going into kindergarten. You don't ever talk down to a kid. You don't ever downgrade somebody. We're all humans, and we all put one pant leg in at a time in our britches. So
yeah,
we're not different than anybody else. So
absolutely.
there's no need to downgrade anybody.
Yeah. So I'm curious, with that outlook on life, have you found it hard to look at your competitors and say, I want to beat them, like I want them to lose? Well, like how do those two worldviews come together?
So in the sport of drag racing, and also in dirt track racing, I believe also, it's all a big family. There's several different, when we get to an event, there'll be anywhere from 300 to 600, sometimes 700 people entered in this event.
Yeah.
But typically there's a group of, 200 of us that are going to most of these events. And it's all like family. So it's the same thing in business. The best way to grow in business is, you're in competition with your competitors, but also to bounce ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
And grow the industry as a whole.
It's like iron sharpening iron.
That's right. So yeah, when I strap my helmet on and that guy's in the other lane, it's battle. I mean, I'm trying to annihilate him.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different mindset. But out of the car, it's friendship. I'm a very, person's emotions affect me. And, I want everybody to know that I'm there to support them.
Right.
So that throughout the pits or throughout business, even if you're an employee, we're all a team together. So, until that time to go to battle, then it's
right.
one-on-one.
Now, when you get into battle, I mean, this right here kind of being your war zone,
mm-hmm.
Are there any sort of mantras you repeat in your mind? Do you feel your mind go quiet? Do you feel, what do you feel entering that?
So it's funny you say that. There's a list right over there where my little cousin went to drag racing school, and the very first thing he has written down on there is think to not overthink. It's like that contradicts itself. Right.
Yeah.
But you try to go numb. You're trying to forget about everything, but as I'm approaching the starting line, I'm just saying aim small, miss small, aim small, miss small, and hit your targets.
That is awesome.
Yeah, because it's all consistent. You're talking about a 5-second run.
Right.
From the time you said right to now has been already been 5 seconds, and the whole entire thing is unveiled.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be not sharp. I don't want to come off egotistical, but you have to be prepared, and everything. You have to see the lap kind of unfold before it happens.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to be able to adapt to the different positions that are happening as you go down the track.
Yeah. So have you found, as you've learned to do that, and as you've mastered that, gained more control over that mind state, have you found that you apply that now to other realms in life, or does it pretty much stay in that?
This is a consistency game. It's, same tire pressure, checking the weather. I have a weather station that looks like Dorothy that sticks up on the front of my trailer, and it tells me humidity, barometric pressure, water drains, all that stuff, and all that dictates what elapsed time you're going to run.
Gotcha.
Because essentially, this is poker on wheels.
Yeah.
But with the consistency and the mental state that it takes to play the game that we play in a race car, you can apply it to business, and it's the exact same. So it's the same way as with the sponsorship from Mr. Cool or from Mosier or from any of the proud partners that we have.
Yeah.
You're trying to just go above and beyond for them and apply the consistency that you apply on the race car, but also apply it to those facets of helping bring customers to them or bring exposure to them.
Right.
But it's day in and day out. It's every day. It's, Southern Termite, it's not a one, you can't just come in one day and then that's it and not check in for the, it's day in and day out, consistency, plugging in, plugging out. You're going to go through seasons where things are going, super smooth and it seems like it's running itself. And then you're going to go through seasons where the whole world's on fire and everything that comes by you is on fire. But you just you got to figure out where the fire extinguisher is and figure out how to put it out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, so Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, he's kind of renowned for the quote, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that's kind of the backbone of Stoic philosophy, is exactly what you just said. What's the biggest amount you've won from a race?
The biggest amount I've took home is 45,000.
45,000.
Yep. Yeah,
and
check trophy. So the way it works is it's a $50,000 race, and then there might be 20 grand to get second place or 10 grand to get second place. But what happens is when there's anywhere from 300 to 700 people enter, when you get down to those 6th to 8th round, and there's 20 people or less, or definitely at 16 or less, and you only see it really in the payouts of like 40 grand or higher. But whenever you get to that point, y'all have all just battled through this huge number of cars.
Yeah.
So you're sitting with the 16 baddest guys on the parking lot. So you either roll the dice and say, no, fly, or whatever is advertised, that's what we're running for, and take your chance, because it really doesn't pay off until you get down to like the last 4 cars. Unless you say, hey, we got a pretty good chunk of change here. Why don't we just start splitting it up? Because you don't know what that, we're all that good.
Sure, yeah.
And you're getting beat or you're winning by thousandths of a second.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, poker on wheels.
Yeah,
like you could have a world-class poker player.
Yep. And it has a little better hand.
Right, exactly.
And not that your hand was bad, but it's just the way that it falls.
Yeah.
So you start splitting it up, and that's why that price cut gets cut down. But yeah,
still 45 grand.
Yeah, 45.
That had to have felt good.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I was able to. There was 370 something people entered, and I ended up being the last 2 cars. Because you can double enter.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so you can have 2 entries.
So you beat 3.
I went 16 rounds. 16 rounds with no losses.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it was an 8-round race.
Yeah.
It would have been 9, but I was the last 2 cars. So
that's incredible. So do you have any routines that both, when you're at the racetrack and then even at home, that keep you in that flow state?
Yeah, so we have
besides drinking Monster?
Yeah.
Not a sponsor, we're working on it.
So there's things like little simulation, it's called practice tree. You can, keep your reaction time in sync, but that's the beauty of the sport, is there's not really a way to practice until you're in competition.
Right.
You can't, you can't go you can go test the consistency of your car, but to be able to do the art of not breaking out or track manipulation, you can't really do that until you're in the moment of the game.
Right.
Which is, only going to be in competition. But other things that I do is just try to like during race season, I try to stay up. Now that I have a newborn, it's a lot easier to do. But I try to stay up later because typically we're racing until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning. So get myself used to being able to stay up late and get up early.
Yeah.
What I eat, that plays a big role with me.
I gotcha.
So I just try to keep it healthy and clean while I'm racing.
Do you have a workout regimen that you do?
Yeah, I mean, just like right now, I'm doing 80 push-ups a day. It's more of a mental toughness.
Yeah, no, resilience, 100%.
Yeah, just something to stay consistent.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that should put me like a little over. It's 27,000 push-ups in a year.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's 560 a week. But because typically I try to challenge myself, doing things like carnivore diet for so long.
Sure, yeah. And how was that, by the way?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like my kind of diet.
Yeah, it definitely gave me a lot of energy. And then,
okay, yeah.
So 75 hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've completed it twice. But I love mental toughness and challenges and stuff like that. I'm not saying that you have to do. I mean, there's guys that can drink beer all night long and then hop up and win $100,000 the next day.
Yeah,
that's just not me though. That's not the way that.
Yeah.
That's not
well, and let's be real. Someone who's doing that, they might get lucky, but I have a feeling in the outside world, as soon as they hop out the car, there might be a slight change of quality comparatively.
Yeah. But some of them can do it, and that's just not me. So
fair enough. Yeah. How do you define success in business?
Success in business, whenever you don't have success in business, whenever you don't have to worry about how you're gonna get everybody paid at the end of the week, and you can come home with your family, and keep the lights on.
That makes sense. So Simple. Then compare or contrast success in racing. How do you define that? Is it just racking up wins? Is it the money? What's
success in racing is definitely the competition and the. I'll say that success in racing as itself, spending quality time with family.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a family affair. There's 7 of us that do it.
Yeah.
And this is what we've all grown up around.
Yeah.
And that's the success part to me, is just being able to share something that I love with my family, because I don't feel like everybody gets to do that or get to experience something like that in their lifetime. But and then obviously you have the other end of the spectrum where success in racing is, how good are you? Whenever you get punched in the face, how do you react?
Skill. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, because everybody's good at something until they get punched in the face, and then they figure out it might be a little different than what they thought.
Exactly. Yep. Isn't that, that's a Mike Tyson quote? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Isn't that him?
Yeah, exactly. So, just how you handle those situations.
Yeah. So then compare and contrast, taking those two things you've just defined. What about just a broader spectrum, success in life? Like what to you when you look at a man, or perhaps when you look at yourself, what makes you say that's a successful man?
That's a good question. It has to be not at the end of my great granddad's life. He didn't care about how much money he had left, or because he was an entrepreneur at one time too. He had a welding shop, and he actually designed one of the like when you see a semi going down the road and it's got a car over the cab of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't build the trailer part of it, but that cab over part where they haul a car over the top of the semi.
Yeah.
He had one of the designs of that and built them in Murray.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, he didn't care about what he accomplished. He just cared about his family that was around him. He was more fulfilled that my uncle and myself and the other people in his family were Christians and willing to serve God, and that helped me open my eyes that money's definitely not everything. Which I learned that a long time ago, but it just helped add to it. That, at the end of the day, success is being close to God and having your family close to you, and everybody striving to that one goal to be the best Christian that they can be.
Exactly. What would you say is the importance of your relationship with God in your life? I mean, I know you just tied it to success, but do you feel like God is a part of your life? Is it bigger than that?
Yeah, God's definitely a part of my life. Without him, none of it would be possible. It's all his anyways.
Yeah.
It's just he's allowed us to be able to have it and use it. So we try to use it for the good. We are humans, so we do make mistakes, but
of course
we try to go with the mentality of we put him first in everything that we do. Like we don't. Sometimes the races are on Sunday. We try to be that example, and unless we can go to church and go to worship, then we're not. More than likely, you're gonna see us pill out on Sunday, just because. And most of the partners. Well, any partner that I've ever sponsored that I've mentioned it to, they're right on board. Like, yeah, how can we, go against that? So, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that, you need to check yourself if you're doing that or anything like that, but that's
Yeah.
how I was raised.
How you
I was
built your life,
raised, come Sunday, we're going to worship God. And then, if there's time for something else, then fine, but we're going to worship God first.
Exactly. Yeah. That's powerful. That's something that's missing in a lot of people's lives, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. What is your approach to fear?
We had this in class the other night, but so what's fear? That there's different versions. So like
the acronym, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah. So like, is fear walking through the dark, with no light, or is fear getting up on stage in front of people for public speaking, or is that nerves? I still get nervous at some races, and when I'm rolling through rounds, and especially when you're running for so in 23, I was down to 10 cars at the $1 million race in Vegas, and I was nervous, and it showed. I missed the reaction time on the tree. The guy went down there and beat me like a drum. He ended up winning the race, but I was fearful or nervous at that time. So I don't know. It depends on your outlook of which way you're trying to go with that. But so fear for me is the way you overcome it is the more you do it, the better. Yeah.
Getting familiar with it kind of gets rid of it in the first place.
Because we're all fearful of what we don't know. I feel like
exactly.
So the more that you do it, and the more you become accustomed to it. So the first time that I don't know if I've ever shared this, but so the first time that I ever went to the big money race, it was for, I think it was $500,000 down in Florida at Bradenton. And I never wrote a check over I remodeled a house and I had to write some pretty big checks, but I never paid, $400 for an entry fee was the most I'd ever paid up to this point.
Yeah.
So then, when I'm walking back to the trailer, I'm getting ready to stroke a check for $4,000, and I couldn't even write it. I couldn't even think how to spell it at the time. I was just nervous and shaking like a leaf on a tree. Yeah. But now it's nothing. Now.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes they're bigger than that. The tabs are bigger than that. But the more you do it, the more you get accustomed to it. But you have to be willing to. A lot of people, I feel like, get fear built up in them, or nervousness, and then they let it stop them from achieving their dream, or their ambitions that they're trying to accomplish.
So would you say you're pretty good at risk management then?
Yeah, I always try to look at risk versus reward. Mm-hmm. But if something makes me nervous, I really like to do it. Yeah. If something makes me feel uncomfortable. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're kind of coming to a close here, so I wanted to hit you with my last two questions. They're both kind of similar. What are some qualities that you have that you hope your future generations will have? Your son, his children. What are some qualities that you hope persist through your bloodline?
It's deep. Yeah, that's hopefully resilience. I feel like I was saying, just the drive to keep going.
Yeah.
I struggle with going through seasons like we were talking about earlier, but just always being able to push through and figure out a way whenever, things are tough.
Yeah.
And hopefully, that they realize that without family, you don't have anything, and without God, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
So, just being able that, hopefully that they'll be able to lean on me, or lean on, me and my uncle say we're trying to build a business, but we're also trying to leave behind a legacy.
Right.
And build a legacy that can carry on for generations.
Exactly.
So hopefully that, they can see what's, I don't want to say sacrifices, but sacrifices that had to be made in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
And that they, don't disrespect it, or, and they keep on challenging themselves to become a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
Every time.
So then you hit on the word that's in the last question that I like to ask, which is just, what do you feel like is your legacy that you want to continue?
Always treated people the way you want to be treated, and you're your biggest critic. I mean, you're the only person in the way of whatever you want to do is yourself. So there's a saying that I say it quite often, but whether you think you can or think you can't, either way you're right.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, exactly.
So it's just all mindset.
Awesome.
And that's that's what, at the end of the day, whenever people, which Alex Ramosi talks about this, but he says, 3 years tops, 3 generations, they're not going to remember your name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got 3 years after you're dead, and definitely 3 generations after you pass away, that somebody's probably not going to remember you.
Probably.
But if you could leave that mark, I would want mine, to be to never give up like that. He always figured out a way. He always, even when it didn't seem like it was possible, he figured out a way to pull through.
Yes. And even like when I said earlier, when people told him he couldn't do it.
Yep. Yep. He just
The drive. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to figure out a way to turn that negativity into positivity.
Exactly.
And, Lindsay's the same way. You're not going to tell her she can't do something.
Yeah.
And she's more resilient than I mean, she pushes through harder than I do. So
y'all have been able to hit it hand in hand at the same time.
Yeah, she definitely, especially like after having Jax, she can fight. But she's not gonna. She takes pride in whatever it is she's doing. She wants to be the best at it also.
Yeah.
And she's not gonna. You're not gonna have to wait on her. Or you're not going to have to worry about if she's going to show up or if she's going to pull through.
Exactly.
And, what more could you ask for?
Yeah. It sounds like y'all are putting together a pretty solid legacy then.
I hope so.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Well, let the people know where they can follow you, where they can check out what you do.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Zac Fulcher. And then our EDR Motorsports page is EDR Motorsports on Facebook and then EDR Motorsports on Instagram. We also have TikTok. So yeah, make sure you follow us, and this year's going to be exciting. This 2025 is going to be our best year yet. Every year,
I believe it.
We've got a little bigger and a little better, more wins, more partners. So this year's shaping up to be pretty exciting. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Well, I'm sure that we'll be talking again soon.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you. If you want to see the full uncut version of this video, feel free to click the link in the description to join our free community where we will post all sorts of uncut interviews as well as a bunch of other courses on how to defeat anxiety and depression, how to live a stoic life like Marcus Aurelius, and so much more. We're building an incredible community with the Order of Aurelius. And so if you enjoy this, feel free to like, subscribe, join our community. Once again, this is Nate from the Order of Aurelius signing off.